Hi everyone, my name is Ruben Garza. I am a local conversation leader for Strong Towns Houston, one of the many organizations that have co-hosted this event. I want to say thank you all for attending, and thanks to all the candidates for attending. I think if it wasn't clear, Laura Gallier will not be able to make it, but we're happy to have 6 of the candidates here to come speak about these issues. We're here literally because there's a special election going on in District C, but we're also here because there are a lot of issues in the community in Houston, the communities in Houston, particularly in District C, that relate to walkability, economic development, sustainability, that we all care about. And we've been advocating for stuff like this for quite a while now, and I'm glad to see that we're able to ask these candidates these questions that are important to these issues. Now, unfortunately, another reason why we're here to talk about these issues is because there are some unfortunate decisions that are going on in City Hall that are sort of attacking these values that we believe in. So we want to be able to ask these candidates these questions to see how they would react and how they would implement change in City Hall for these values. So, that having said, I'm going to introduce our moderator. His name is Charles Kuffner. He is the founder and operator of the blog Off the Cuff, founded in 2002. It is the longest running political blog in the state of Texas. Charles is a resident of the Heights, longtime Houstonian, and a well-trusted member of our community when it comes to everything you know, Texas and Houston related. Please give everyone a round of applause for Charles.
Thank you to the candidates for being here. I'm just going to briefly go over how this is going to work, and then we will get into the questions. So we have 6 candidates here. I have a set of questions to ask, and you all contributed some more. I will not have time to get all of them. I picked out a couple. This is not a general purpose forum. There's been a number of candidate forums, so we're going to ask. We have some specific questions on a handful of topics in mind for the candidates to address. Issues of transportation, housing, land use, and pedestrian safety. Those are the focal points of this forum, and that's what the questions are going to be about. We are going to ask, and I will call on candidates in different orders to answer. We are asking everyone to limit their answers to 1 minute. I have a timekeeper here. Where's my timekeeper in the back? The yellow card says you have 15 seconds to go, and the red card says please stop. You can finish your sentence, but we want to keep this moving so that everyone has roughly equal time, and so we can get as much in as possible. So, with all that, I would like to give everyone 1 minute to introduce themselves, to say who you are, what you're about. You have 1 minute, and I'm going to start here this way. So Audrey, you get to go first. Wait, do we not have microphones on the table? Sorry. Yeah, this would take a while. Yes, I'm sorry, we should have some.
I'm going to stand because I'm short. Hi, I'm Audrey Nath. I am a pediatric neurologist and mom in Montrose, running for the Houston City Council District C. And briefly, I had left full-time academic medicine 5 years ago to advocate for the causes I believe in, including crosswalks near schools and limiting the smoke shop advertising to our kids and protesting that HIs to take over. And now I am running for safe streets because I'm crossing Montrose every day with my daughter to get to work to a language academy. We have far too many deaths in this city. I've seen too many kids get hit by cars with brain injuries. And so we need to be able to get around safely. For flooding funding and infrastructure, because climate change is real. And these disasters aren't going to get better on their own, and we need to be proactive. As well as basic city services like reliable trash pickup and parks and libraries, because these are the basics that make Houston livable. My name is Audrey Nath. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Nick.
Hey everybody, my name is Nick Hellyar, also candidate for District C. It's just been great in our head that we say that. So, anyways, I grew up here in Houston. I went to Lanier and Lamar. District C kind of raised me, and when I was a young kid, I was able and lucky enough to work at City Hall, where I was a constituent services manager in the District I office. So when trash cans didn't get picked up or there were potholes in the road, I was the one who received the calls and then worked with the departments to get it fixed. That's kind of where I learned my passion for municipal government. And I want to take that advocacy to City Hall to fight for my neighbors. So I want to be known as kind of the person when you have something that you can't figure out at the city, please call your district office and I'll help you take care of it. Major issues that we're going to focus on: public safety, number one. If we don't keep our neighborhoods safe, nothing else really matters. Flooding infrastructure, District C has a lot of the portions of it in the flood zone. Of course, we know what happened in Meyerland and Logan Park, so those are kind of the things that I'm going to focus on in City Hall. Thanks so much.
Howdy y'all, my name is Joe Panzarella, and I have been fighting for safe streets for 5 years now. The first time I ever went to City Council to advocate for safe infrastructure in the Heights, Councilmember Kubosh, if y'all remember him, said, "Did you bike all the way down here from Kingwood?" And I did not, but I would if I could, okay? My name is Joe Panzarella. I'm running for Houston City Council District C. I am a grassroots community organizer. I'm the president of the Freemanstown 4 Super Neighborhood, and I'm a renewable energy developer. I'm running because I love Houston, I believe deep in its potential, but it can be hard to live in. I want to make it easier for all of us. I am running for safer streets, for affordable housing, and for a transparent City Hall, to make sure that our infrastructure dollars are spent how we want to see them spent, on drainage, on walkability, on bikeability, and quality of life. My name is Joe Panzarella. I was endorsed by the Houston Chronicle because they saw that we can connect the issues to real, tangible policy. I was also endorsed by the Greater Heights Democratic Club, and I'm so proud to be here today at the Heights Fire Station. Again, my name is Joe Panzarella. Thank you so much.
My name is Sophia Campos, and I'm a native-born Houstonian. I was born in District C and grew up a few blocks away from the Galleria in an apartment complex that showed me what community looks like. We do not just have an affordable housing problem. We have a trust problem after years of being misled and lied to. Houstonians have seen millions of our taxpayer dollars used to purportedly fight gentrification, yet all the city has to show for it are empty office buildings and fewer than 500 affordable homes. Houston has not even defined what affordability means. I have worked for politicians before, and they prioritize political networking over the communities of placement in that seat. And I am tired of watching my friends and neighbors go to City Hall and compress our grievances into 1 minute public comments and before people whose decisions have already been made. These are not neutral times, they are dangerous times. So vote for Sophia Campos on April 4th to get the answers we deserve.
Hello, my name is Angelica Kaufman, also running for City Council District C. A little bit about me: I currently work in Harris County. I work the highest level of local government as Chief of Staff of the County Judge's Office. So day in and day out, I'm working on constituent services. I'm working to fight for flooding to protect our mitigation, our flooding projects, and I'm working to make sure that our streets and our neighborhoods and our communities are as safe as they possibly can be. And for me, safety isn't just about more boots on the ground. It's about making sure that we have safe pedestrian walk spaces, safe places for our kids and our families to grow and to thrive. My husband and I live just a few blocks from 19th and the Nicholson Trail. So for me, I believe that this community and all the communities in District C are extremely dynamic and unique, and I want to take all of my experience at the highest level of local government over to City Hall so I can continue to do this great work. Thank you.
All right, hey y'all, my name is Patrick Oathout. I was born and raised here. I went to Poe, Lanier, and Lamar, public school kid from District C. Jim Henley was my debate coach at Lanier. At Lamar, I came out of the closet. Those symbols of pride in Montrose meant something to me. And I was fired from a job in high school for being gay. This was pre-Bostock, and that was the point where I was like, man, I'm not gonna let any more bullies tell me what to do in this state. Flash forward, after January 6, 2021, I joined the Army because I didn't want MAGA taking over our elections. And I led a tank platoon of 20 soldiers and 4 tanks at NATO Battle Group Poland on the Russian border. It was an awesome experience to stand up to that notorious homophobe, Vladimir Putin, as an out-gay combat officer. And I'm back in Houston now because I'm worried about our democracy here. I want city council members with courage who are going to push for affordability, public safety, and infrastructure as well. So Patrick Oathout, look forward to the conversation today.
Thank you everyone for the introductions. Generally, let's hold off on the applause until everyone's done, just so that we can keep this moving. I would like, before I get started with the questions, I want to do a thank the Houston Heights Association for the use of this lovely firehouse, this historic building that they own and maintain and that we are using. There's more organizations that I'll thank at the end, but I want to get that out right up front because we wouldn't be here if it weren't for that. So thank you to the Houston Heights Association. Okay, so this forum is about, as I said, housing, transportation, pedestrian safety, land use. So we're gonna get right into it. We all agree that how we use land in the city and in this district has a great impact on everyone's quality of life, from housing prices to what neighborhoods are like. So, what is more important for District C right now? Is it building new homes and commercial properties or rehabbing existing ones? And why? So I'm going to start at this end of the table with Patrick.
Yeah, so I've seen the city change over time. I'm obviously born and raised here, and I'm glad that we're growing tall instead of sprawl, but we need to do this that takes into the community, and make sure that this is still a livable place to be. In 2023, the City of Houston created the Livable Actions Committee, and I'm going to support the recommendations, especially for neighborhoods like the Heights. Let's keep the Heights like the Heights, and let's look at converting existing commercial properties that are defunct into apartment buildings and multifamily housing, and make sure that we track those with metrics so parking per density or water per person is not overburdening neighborhoods that are already stretched thin with a lot of construction as well. As a district council member, I'm going to communicate with all the various entities here and make sure that when there's construction going on in your neighborhood, we're looking at dust mitigation and noise mitigation procedures, and we're reducing the construction footprint as well, because there's so much construction going on in the city right now, and we need to ensure that this is still a livable place while we all grow along with it.
Okay. Angelica.
So we know the need continues to grow as the population continues to grow in District C. This is one of the most sought after districts. It's inner loop. We as a city continue to bring in some of the most talented people professionally, and with that comes the responsibility of making sure that we have places for them to live where it's close to where they work. I am very supportive of multifamily housing and very supportive of finding more affordable housing and ways that we can do that. I believe that that begins when you're developing and in the planning process and when you're working on ordinances. There is a way that we can demand this, and it has been done before, and I support doing that moving forward.
District C has been incredibly beneficial in providing affordable housing funds. With our first districts that have been petitioned to be created, therefore a third of those funds are sent to the city to be used for affordable housing. But we've seen 150 million of those dollars improperly used. And the city has money, actually, that they don't know where it is. And that is an absolutely unacceptable answer. So we cannot just be building housing. Development for development's sake is not going to prioritize affordability for low-income families that truly need that. We have over 60% of Houstonians who are low income and need affordable housing. And when they end up in these housing complexes, there is not enough oversight to provide livable and tenable conditions. I believe that District C should be leading the charge with responsible, affordable, and accountable leadership to ensure that all of Houstonians are lifted and we can truly secure the type of future that we know we deserve.
Okay, so I think the question was, what is more important, building new or focusing old? And I think the answer is both, and I'll give you an example within my neighborhood, Freemanstown. The Fourth Ward TERS is sitting on 27 empty lots that they've owned since 2008. That is valuable land that could be converted into mixed-use affordable housing. I look forward to, one, cutting parking requirements to make it cheaper and easier to build, but also collaborating with the TERS to put those empty lots into the game, and we can build that affordable housing we so desperately need. At the same time, it is really important to incentivize and encourage redevelopment. Same time in Fourth Ward, we have a lot of these shotgun shacks that have been there, they're historic, they're incredible, and they need to be preserved, but we need to support the developers that have the know-how and the wherewithal to actually put those projects forward. As a council member, I am committed to working with them, using our district funds where possible, working with the community land trust as well, to build those collaborations, to build these teams, to push forward really impactful refurbishment projects.
Building new versus rehab here in the Heights, I think, is an extremely important question, right? So what we want to do is preserve the character of our neighborhoods while at the same time still being allowed to kind of fill in where we need to. I was a a staffer at City Hall when we created the ordinance that allows for historic neighborhoods. And I think Houston's really unique, right? And so we can go neighborhood by neighborhood and figure out what works where. In the Heights, historic Heights in particular, rehabbing is 100% going to be the answer and not building new. We don't want the historic Heights to look like Rice Military, but people love Rice Military, right? So it's just about knowing the neighborhoods and going neighborhood to neighborhood, talking to the residents and figuring out what they want. But here in the historic Heights, I would say, especially being in this building, would be rehab and not building it.
You know, this is an issue of triage in terms of new building versus rehabbing, and that's going to depend on the data for every district in terms of what's there, what are the highest need rehabs and new builds. Something I want to draw some attention to is we have a walkable places ordinance. This was a pilot project back in 2020 that incentivizes both new builds and renovations to be more walkable and to have parking in the back so we can have more space to walk. And so this is something that's already on the books. There's 3 developments so far in Houston, but we need to get some of our walkable places in District C, which would be the perfect place to get this done. Additionally, we can leverage in addition to historical districts, conservation districts for some of our historical areas in District C in order to retain the character of these areas with rules that people can vote on in order to retain the historic character of these neighborhoods. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next question. Very straightforward. What will you do to improve transportation options in District C? I'm going to start with Sophia on this one.
I've been inspired to stand. So what I would do to fix transportation is we have to make Houston safer, and we have to advocate for safer streets, because it's not just about being able to have the luxury of biking to work. It's about prioritizing those that are hit most by needing to push them into regarding a car or anything like that. So what I would do is to be a firm advocate and be meeting with the communities who have been organizing for years to understand fully what kind of projects provide that safety, provide greater transportation access, and prioritizing those projects. But ultimately, somebody has to take authority over those projects to truly see them through and be the advocate that an elected official should be for these types of values.
Joe.
I had a conversation with Sherry Wiesner. She's the chair of the TERS here in this neighborhood. And I said, you know, I'm running for city council because I really want to push for multimodal transit. I want to make it easier for multimodal transit. And she says, it's not multimodal, it's just transit. Walkability, bikeability, driving, those are all just forms of transit. And Houston should be investing in all of them equally. First, I'm going to lead with my values. I believe bus lines should be running at 15-minute frequencies. I live off the 40 and the 41. That usually takes me from my house all the way here to the Heights fire station. If I miss that one bus, I have to wait 30 minutes. That's not reliable, and that's not really to the standard of what Houstonians expect and deserve. When it comes to walkability and bikeability, we're going to have to work with the TERSs. There's a program called Safe Routes to School, where they are providing funding to improve sidewalks and crosswalks to make it easier for kids and students and their parents to get to our most vulnerable locations, like schools and parks. I am committed to working with Houston Public Works, our TERSs, and the communities to build these sidewalks, improve sidewalks across the nation, and also bringing forward public-private partnerships. Thank you so much.
All right, Angelica. No?
So absolutely, we need to continue to protect and provide safe spaces where we can walk, or we can ride our bikes. I do not believe that pedestrian and drivers need to be on opposite sides of this issue. I think that it all comes down to, again, which I mentioned before, it's the planning, it's the communication. We know that as we continue growing, and I said this before, we're going to continue to have more families and more people, and we're going to need to figure out how we're going to fund this, because it's so important to our communities. I also think that when we're in the planning phase and we're working with the TERS and we're figuring out the timelines, that communication needs to be part of every single meeting that we're having with the super neighborhoods, with the civic clubs, and in addition, we need to have input from the communities on when we begin the construction of these projects to make sure that the right hand is communicating to the left hand. Thank you.
Nick.
Yeah, so I started working on these issues a long time ago. I remember around 2004, there was a group called the Blue Line Group, and we organized, to ensure that the university line got built properly. Of course, Culberson cut the funding for that, and we never ended up with the light rail. But this is something I've been working on for a long time. I've been on the board of BikeHouston, I've been the executive director of BikeHouston, and it's all about finding the balance between getting around Houston. One of the first things that I do as district council member is come up with a district-wide transportation plan, and I'm already starting to work with organizations on that. It's kind of what we did on the bicycle advocacy committee, finding the 10 most dangerous intersections and fixing those. Let's look for the low-hanging fruit first. But the TERS are the ones that are doing most of the transportation infrastructure dollars these days, so working with them, knowing what tools are in the toolbox, and again, going back to the neighborhoods to figure out what's important, and then solving the problems from there.
So I've been riding metro buses in the city since I was 15 years old. My parents thought it was going to be too dangerous for me to drive on the streets, and now that I'm a mom, I kind of get where they were coming from. So for me, as someone who's been a bus rider for a long time, again, we can use evidence. This is evidence-based medicine. We can have evidence-based policies and schedules. So we have the data from the buses themselves, there's cameras on them, to see where are the most embarked and disembarked stops. We can prioritize these stops for improvements like the covered shelters, just to make it more doable to ride the bus, as well as have dynamic scheduling in order to be able to work with what's really happening on the ground, to be nimble to changes in ridership. And I support the voter-approved Metro Next plan, which has a great, really needed east to west corridor here in Houston, so people can get to work and education and medical care safely.
And Patrick.
All right, here's my order of priorities when it comes to mobility. First it's pedestrians, then it's buses, then it's bikes, and then it's cars. I was just talking to the University of Houston's Foresight group yesterday, and it occurred to me that we need a revamped mobility vision for the city, not just for a district, because let me tell you all, these city council districts don't make a lot of geographic sense. Projects cross all these boundaries, and so we need a holistic vision for the city that's revamped and shows where we want to be in 2030, 2040 onwards. And we need to look at innovative solutions that other cities are exploring as well. Sugarland is currently exploring a modular light rail system, so something that doesn't require a lot of capital expenditure. We need an actual mass transit solution in this city, and we need to look at solutions like that as well. Finally, I'm not going to fit this in the last 15 seconds, but when it comes to existing mobility projects, we need to have credible deterrence and push back when people try to throw community plans out in the trash.
All right, thank you. Now, we can talk all we want about non-car travel, biking, transit, pedestrians, you name it. We all know that as soon as we do, somebody, whether in the room or online, is going to say, the heck with all that. Houston's a car city. Cars and streets, that's what matters. So, when you inevitably encounter someone who says that, which may be a colleague on city council, maybe just a neighbor, how do you respond to that? What do you say to someone who says Houston is a car city? And I'm going to start this one with Angelica.
I say we're both. I think that you cannot say we're one and not the other, because sometimes, and we've done it ourselves, you may want to, you're going to a function or maybe something downtown, and so you decide to use transit or a sporting event, but then you're also, your neighbors are using their vehicles. So we have to figure out how we prioritize them at the same time. And I do believe that that can happen. And it all, again, goes back to the planning, and it goes back to the data and the evidence-based research that we see and we have shown works in other cities across this country who have been very successful. So I support following that kind of a model so that we can make sure that we're meeting the needs of both of them.
Audrey.
So to this, this is near and dear because I've seen too many kids get hit by cars and then have brain injuries and in the ICU. And really we need to be creating policies and street safety so that doesn't happen. We have 10 people a month dying in traffic accidents and it doesn't even make the news anymore. So to me, my response to that person would be, well, street safety measures are for everybody, including drivers. This is for all of us to be safer. When we have lower speed limits, we do have less deaths for everybody. We can have our narrow lanes be our street lanes be optimized in width so that we have less speeding and less driver collisions and fewer pedestrian deaths. We can expand our sidewalks so there are space for 2 wheelchairs to pass each other, for my kids to be able to bike. We can do all of these things, and it's not a zero-sum game.
Patrick.
All right, in college I had a friend who did a study of the biggest drivers of happiness, and it's not your income, it's not if you're in a productive relationship, it's your commute time. If you have a low commute time, it is one of the biggest drivers of your day. And so I don't tell people that Houston is a car city, it's a neighborhood city. We are defined by our neighborhoods, and we need to build an infrastructure that matches it. I'll reflect what Audrey said as well. Somebody who was just killed in a hit and run 2 blocks from my home on Bissonnet at that volcano in the middle of the night from a car that didn't have headlights. And so we need to make sure that we're thinking holistically about safety when it comes to traffic calming measures, signalized crossings, but also making sure vehicles have headlights and are keeping folks safe as well.
Nick.
Yeah, I think this goes to building a system that works for everybody, right? Is Houston a car city? Most people are going to say yes. But if we're going to make Houston a place that people want to come to in the future, a place where businesses want to relocate, where people want to raise families, we're going to have to build a system that works for everyone. People want to walk, people want to bike, and yeah, people want to get in their cars. So, having worked at City Hall, these are issues that are prominent that we need to build coalitions with other council members to work on. If you try and go into another council member's district and tell them what they need to do over there, you're going to get a lot of pushback. And I kind of understand how this works, right? It's building with whatever council member is next to your district and plans that go through. One of the first things that I want to work on is the connection between Buffalo Bayou Park and Memorial Park. Right now we have 2 gems in this city that are not connected. It sure would be nice to bike and hike in between the 2 without getting onto Memorial. So that's just some of the few things I'd like to work on. But is Houston a car city? Right now it is, but we can make it different.
Yeah.
So right now, I cross Allen Parkway at Gillette Street to get to Buffalo Bayou Park. There's a red light there, and there's a crosswalk. Very simple infrastructure. 10 years ago, that did not exist. And that seems like such a novel concept that crossing Allen Parkway to get to one of our best parks, Buffalo Bayou, is such a new thing. So Houston is not a car city. It is an underinvested city in walkability and bikeability. And that's why I am running. I am running to work with Houston Public Works, to work with the Terzias, to work with our community members, to find what works and to connect our most biggest gaps. It's not just having parks and having amazing schools and churches, but it's connecting our communities to them. And so again, it's being able to build these coalitions, to collaborate, and then to push forward these key connections, and that's what I look forward to doing with the next council member.
And Sophia.
So yes, Houston has been built around cars, but it should be built around safety. It should prioritize people and people's quality of life. And ultimately, we have to consider who is affected, because it's all of us. To echo what Patrick was saying, it goes to being able to enjoy the city in which you live, to have more options. And it's not just luxurious things that we are discussing. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we can avoid a lot of traffic deaths, and we should be doing everything in our power as City Hall to prevent those deaths. So I believe we have to have more conversations around how do we actually make Houston take those steps toward not prioritizing so much our emphasis on getting around and that rugged individualism, but really seeing the value of having a more interconnected city so that we can get around, we can enjoy ourselves, and we can have the opportunity to live the type of lives that we can.
All right. Next question. It's your birthday, and for your present, the city has received a $10 million grant that you can use however you want in District C. What do you do with the money? Go. Remember, this is a grant for District C.
I love it. $10 million grant, I guess not anything.
Anything legal, obviously.
Gallier, where do I start? I would like to use that $10 million to put it into a fund for our public-private partnerships to start to rehab the sidewalks that are a big issue all throughout District C. I've spoken to folks here in the Heights, specifically near daycares, right, near Lawrence Park, where, and I even have a picture right now, where I had to lift a stroller above the sidewalk because it was so absolutely destroyed. And there's these small gaps all over the network, all over the city. So I would use that $10 million to start a fund and start collecting in other businesses, nonprofits, different organizations to pay in as well, so that we can start to fill these little gaps. And then from there, you can expand it further, and hopefully, something I'd like to see long term is a $1 billion bond, something I've spoken about with the link, Houston, to push forward sidewalks and bike infrastructure across the city. And with that $10 million, I think that's a good start. So.
Sophia.
I would use that money to invest in our parks. I've talked to residents and I can't believe what I hear. There are residents in certain pockets of District C that have for years advocated for park repairs, for their tennis courts to be repaired, for their playground to actually be there after being removed. And they're getting contradictory answers. So what's going on? Because some residents receive the answer that we don't have enough money. Some residents receive the answers that the projects have been kicked through, and they only come to find that in fact those projects are not underway. So I want to ensure that all communities in District C have access to parks. Kids need parks. Families need parks. It's a wonderful place to go over the weekend. It's healthy. It keeps kids out of trouble. So that's what I would use those funds to do. Because if it's the money, all right, then let's put the money there.
Nick.
Yeah, so each council member now gets $1 million for their district service funds, but $10 million on top of it would be fantastic because that $1 million goes real quick. I would probably divide it up into 3 issues. One would be neighborhood calming devices for traffic. A lot of what we're seeing going on Shepherd is pushing cars through the neighborhoods. I think the city, District C in particular, I know that there's a lot of places that have road cushions that have been approved, but we just can't find the funding for it. So that would be something that I would work on. Flood mitigation for certain parts of the district. There are local plans where just a few streets flood, and these things at the bottom of the big CIP that aren't getting done because they're trying to do the big ones first. So I would do the neighborhood flooding measures and then parks as well. I've seen the budget for the city. We are covering some of the big things at the top, but parks are often the times that things that get left out. And this would be a huge improvement. We were talking about Lawrence Park just a second ago, how it's flooding in the back. So neighborhood parks as well.
Patrick.
All right, you turn $10 million into $30 million when you layer it onto other projects and they have a multiplier effect. I want to focus on 4 things. These are already in my platform, day 1 priorities. First is creating a illegal dumping task force. Mario is already doing this in District H. I know this is a huge issue in the Heights, and it's an issue that persists if you don't clean up this stuff quickly. So it's sending out teams of people while solid waste is still struggling and cleaning up these illegal dumping sites. 2, it's continuing to fund drainage projects and layering that on to already what the county's doing. 3, it's building out signalized crossings. And then 4, I want to buttress solid waste. Those folks are still using paper maps, diesel engines on their vehicles that require a lot of repair and that are quite loud and quite expensive and not good for the climate. I think those vehicles could use some upgrades.
Audrey.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that. So for $10 million in District C, I think we can use evidence-based medicine. We can target our most needed crosswalks near schools. So a crosswalk to paint is apparently around $25,000. I was kind of surprised by that too. And that's why I've advocated for safe routes to school to get crosswalks near schools. So that's where we can use it for the highest need elementary, and then middle schools, and then high schools, so our kids will get to school without getting hit. Additionally, I want to be investing in expanding in our library system. This is where we can have after-school programs for kids. They increase graduation rates. It allows people to search for jobs and get their work done and just exist in space without paying for stuff. Especially as with the state takeover of HISD, libraries and HISD schools have been closed. And third, I want to promote playgrounds and recreation facilities like the West Roy Metropolitan Center, which has such wonderful disability sports and therapies. Thank you.
And Angelica.
$10 million. It sounds like a lot of money, but unfortunately it doesn't go very far in District C where we have nearly 250,000 people. I would work with the projects that we have now. We've had to put a lot of different initiatives on hold. Grant funding has been clawed back. So I look to see where the greatest need is, what we've been lacking, where we've had to really exhaust our resources to make sure that we are getting the services that are currently in place, continue to have them move. I would also, the $10 million, I would also protect our drainage projects. Nick had spoken to this a little bit as well, but the rainy day fund and some of the larger flooding projects that we have, they do many times start with the larger projects first, and it's the smaller ones that get put on hold, and they get delayed and delayed and delayed. And a lot of that is because of the funding. So I would make sure if I had any additional money that it would go to that. And then also diversion programs, our public safety programs, to make those up. Thank you.
All right, well, that's great, but you can't always get what you want. And the one place where we've definitely seen that in District C is with some of the transportation and drainage infrastructure projects in the district that Mayor Whitmire has wanted to make changes to even after they've been developed and approved. So, what is your response to Mayor Whitmire over the changes and pushback that he has given on projects like Montrose for Telephone Road for West Alabama? How would you respond to Mayor Whitmire on these things? Let's start with Shelley.
Yeah. I have been responding to these things for the past 3 years since he was elected. I was in support of the Shepherd-Durham project that he attempted to change and update. And working with folks in this room, we sent hundreds of postcards, we got businesses, we got community leaders together, and we pushed back as a unified voice. And the mayor listened, and Shepherd-Durham moved forward. Now, there were some changes, but I think overall that was a big victory for us. In Montrose, we have not seen that collective pushback. I won't correct myself, Friends of the Boulevard is doing amazing work, and they're bringing the community together, but the mayor's not listening. And that's why we need a council member that understands the problems, that understands the wants and needs of the community, and will bring all of our voices to city council. I firmly stand in favor of safety improvements, of these original designs, and I've stood by the community already. We saw a small victory on West Alabama when we got the lanes reduced to 11 feet as opposed to 12, like the mayor wanted. And that came through aggressive coalition movement, and that's what I will continue to do.
All right, Angelica.
Similarly to what Joe just said, consensus building, coalition building, we've seen city council people that have put ordinances in place. There has been real movement to make sure that we can work around this, and we continue to support that and to work with my fellow colleagues on holding the mayor accountable, making sure that if there is a project that is going to be, that he makes a decision as he's made, that there is transparency to the public so that they understand what the real risks are and the amount of money that is wasted when this sort of thing happens.
Sophia.
I would have a conversation with the mayor about the budget, because I believe that we are seeing the mayor override boards, institute people who will squash these plans because he is working closely with, these are not accusations, but I believe that he is working closely, as I said so, with the state to secure funds. And I believe that those funds are tied to transportation and projects that prioritize thoroughfare. So I would have a very honest and frank conversations about how do we address our budget crisis without the Trojan horse of bringing in the state legislature to secure those funds. And in doing so, with regard to these projects, ultimately my commitment would be to the residents, to the communities that are placing me into this seat. And so I would have the conversations to try and glean an understanding as to why these are the actions that are taken, but ultimately communicate with the community, and that coalition building I prioritize from the outside, because I believe that that is the pressure that City Hall needs.
Patrick.
Power respects power. How you get somebody to stop doing something is through deterrence. The mayor reminds me of a lot of the generals I worked with in the Army. They're institutionalists, they have decades of experience, but they can often be incrementalists and resistant to feedback. So we've seen successful initiatives that push back on changes to mobility paradigms in the city with Shepherd-Durham, for example, where there were layers of funding on top of each other. The county, federal officials, city council members who all called him, and the community organizing and presented a credible deterrence to changing up a project midstream. That's the type of role I want to be as a city council member, is coordinate activist movements, community organizations, call up federal officials, call up the county, and present a unified front when things change. We need somebody who's not just good at getting on a mic and screaming about issues, but knows how to actually build alliances that create a credible deterrent.
All right, Nick?
Yeah, having worked in district council offices in the past, what I've seen is the most important thing is to be an advocate for the neighborhoods, right? So I'm not going to go down there with an agenda and say Nick's going to do X, Y, Z. Usually what it is going to the super neighborhoods and the civic clubs in the neighborhoods, figuring out what the issues are, and then going to be an advocate at City Hall for you. We just saw this project that's being done on Montrose right now, from Westray to about Fairview. The neighbors didn't get any notice about it. We didn't get any heads up. And so the first thing I would ask the mayor is, please, if any projects are going on in the district, please let me know first so we can get out in advance of the neighborhoods. And look, I've worked under 3 administrations, the White administration, Parker administration, and Whitmire administration. It usually is about coming together with the community, with the neighbors, what people want in the district, and then going to the mayor and saying, hey, look, I've been out there, I've been in the neighborhoods, I've been in the clubs, this is what they're saying, this is what they want, and most of the time, that's what gets done.
And Audrey?
You know, when I think about decisions being made based on misunderstandings that are not in the best interest of a person or a population, it kind of makes me think of many conversations I've had as a physician with patients where it might be based on vibes and not data. It looks like these vaccines cause this autism, and that's where education comes in about the data. Well, here's what's borne out in the population studies. We have the answers to this. And I think it's going to be a similar approach with educating when there are misunderstandings. And here's what the data shows of what we need for street safety. We know what we need to do. So I have already spoken out about choices that the mayor has made that are not in the best interest of our community. And I think it is important that our city council member be the voice for the community. And I will be working with coalitions like the Tearsons and the county in order to get some of these projects done, and work with public pressure and public support the way I have with parents with safe routes to school to get some of these policies across the finish line. Thank you.
All right, we're going to change things up for a few minutes, and I've got a number of what we're calling lightning round questions. I'm going to ask these, and the answers that you give will be yes, no, or I need more information. Okay, just that it. No speech. Yes, no, or I need more information. And to make this simple, so that we don't waste any time, it's going to go this way. So, starting with Audrey, do you support removing Houston's minimum parking requirements?
Yes, I am against parking minimums.
Yes.
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 All right, unanimous. Do you support road diets, by which I mean safety over speed, and that can mean reducing lanes, reducing lane sizes on wide streets?
Yes.
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 So far, so good. Do you support Councilmember Julian Ramirez's transparency ordinance pending in City Council?
Absolutely yes.
Hell yes.
Of course, yes.
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 All right. Since that was a proposition, that was the result of Proposition A, would you use Proposition A to advance your vision for Houston, even if Mayor Whitmire or future mayors disagree with you?
Yes, and I've already had conversations with other members about it.
Yes.
Yes, I will.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
We should do harder questions next time. Last one. Do you support expedited permitting for multifamily developments and single-family home conversions?
Yes, with being respectful to code.
As a realtor, yes.
Yes.
I can't say maybe, but
Yes.
I need more information.
That's an acceptable answer.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all. I'm now gonna pick up some of the questions that were submitted by audience members, and like I said, there's a whole lot. You people have a lot to say, and I appreciate that. We all appreciate that. We don't have time to get to all of those questions. We'd be here all day. And I would like to watch a little bit of March Madness at some point. You know, the women's games are on.
Thank you.
But I have a couple here that I'd like to run through in the time that we have. We have about another 20 or 30 minutes. So, and I am going to start this way, but I'm going to vary it after that. How does your experience help with your main objectives as city council member?
So in my experience as a physician, we are trained to deal with multiple emergencies at the same time, and the concept of triage, which is prioritizing the most important issues when everything feels overwhelming. And that is applicable to the city as well, where there's often more than one emergency happening at the same time. That helps me prioritize the issues that I think are most important in terms of safety and flooding and parks and libraries. Additionally, I see constituent services in the city of Houston as being akin to a busy medical office, where there are urgent issues that need to be dealt with right away. For example, talking about a vote that's going to happen in a few hours, we can't let that sit for a week. And all of the calls need to be addressed. And this is where I do part-time telemedicine, about for a few hours a week, and because of that, I'm able to donate my salary back in city council, like a few others, to use that to hire another person to help with constituent services, like a busy medical office.
Nick?
Yeah, so I think my experience having worked in a district council office, having been the chief of staff for a council member, gives me really unique advantage on how to do this job well. The person that gets elected to this office is going to be sworn in the middle of the budget process. I'm extremely honored to be endorsed by Councilmember Sally Alcorn, who's chair of the BFA committee, Budget and Fiscal Affairs, which runs the budget process for the city council. So I think I don't need on-the-job training. I can hit the ground running day one. And then also, but I've been on the neighborhood side too. I've been the vice president of a Superneighborhood. I've been a long-time board member and vice president of the LGBT political caucus. So I've been on both ends. I understand that in these rooms, in the Superneighborhood rooms, in the activist rooms, that's where the issues come up. But I've also been on the side that solves the solutions at the city. So I think I'm uniquely prepared to start day one without any training.
As a grassroots organizer, my policy is not abstract ideas, but real work that I have done for the past 5 years in Houston. Working with BikeHouston, A Tale of Two Bridges, and co-founding an organization called No Higher Than Live I-10, where we advocated all along the I-10 corridor, working with Superneighborhood, civic clubs, council members, state reps, to push back against tech stop and to protect our neighborhoods against highway expansions. Thanks to our advocacy work, Precinct 4 is now working through a Connecting Communities grant to study the feasibility of a cap over I-10 as opposed to expanding it into District C. As the president of the Freemanstown Fourth Ward Superneighborhood, I was able to bring together legacy voices and new voices within our neighborhood to have a unified voice at City Council. That is what I look forward to doing as your next council member. I have proven time and time again that I can build coalitions, that I can collaborate, and that I can get big wins for District C, and I look forward to doing it with all of you here today. Thank you.
I learned how to advocate and about legislation when I joined the World Defense Project in 2017, an organization that works hard to ensure that immigrant workers, especially in the construction industry, are having recourse for the wage theft that is rampant and are able to navigate these complex legal systems and ultimately ask them out of paid labor and safe work. And I've been doing that work since 2017. So I'm aware of how to lobby even the most hardened Republicans in the Texas Capitol where all the power is tipped against us. I also worked as a policy analyst for a Democratic caucus in the 87th session. So I have tracked bills. I have been there after winter storm Uri producing policy briefs to then disseminate to legislators and influence legislation. And I also worked as a district liaison for Senator Molly Cook, and I have been to all of these meetings, listening to the grievances, listening to what is happening in the different neighborhoods of Houston, and being able to communicate those grievances and actually allow people to feel that what they want to see passed is influencing legislation. And that's what I believe firmly we need to see as a country.
I am responsible for running and managing the second highest office in the state of Texas, the county judge's office. In that role, I am responsible for coordinating with federal, state, city officials, over 24 departments in the city of Houston, even more than that in the county and throughout the state of Texas. This work requires real experience that I have. I'm a trained public servant. I'm not a nurse, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a teacher. I work with all people from those professions quite often to make sure that we are providing the best possible policies for the people that I have been, that I currently serve and that I hope to serve in City Council.
All right, 80% of this job is constituent services. It needs to be somebody who doesn't legislate from the desk and is literally on policy positions, but knows how to roll up their sleeves and get in the field. After I led a tank platoon in Poland, I came back to Fort Hood and I led 200 mechanics leading our battalion's maintenance program, making sure our vehicles, tanks, Abrams, Humvees, JLTVs, you name it, were combat ready. These vehicles had to shoot, move, and communicate. And let me tell you something, I did not know a lot about auto mechanics whatsoever, but there were 200 vehicles, 10 faults on each one, parts throughout the Army's Byzantine procurement process. I had to learn all of that. I am going to do the same with your blocks. I'm going to memorize each of your blocks the ways I had to memorize those bumper numbers, the potholes on those blocks, when they were last addressed. I am somebody who's going to roll up my sleeves and solve your issues. I'm literate on policy, but I am willing to do the hard work as well. I've demonstrated that in the past, and I've led large teams, 200 mechanics, 90 technologists right now, a platoon of 20 soldiers. I know how to run a district office.
All right, thank you. We're going to start at that end and move down this way for this question. You will be succeeding Councilmember Kaufman, who accomplished a lot in your time as City Council member, but nobody can do everything and all the time that they have. So, what one project or effort of Councilmember Kaufman's would you work to continue and hopefully complete if you are elected? And I'm going to amend this question and say, if you would prefer to answer instead, what one thing Councilmember Kaufman is doing that you would immediately put a stop to? If you are elected, you can answer that question instead. We'll start with that.
Yeah, what I really appreciate about Councilmember Kaufman is that she was a fighter, a champion for the working class, and somebody who was present in your neighborhoods. I'm going to continue that same energy. I think a really innovative thing she developed was all this stuff around gun safety. So creating this violence dashboard and working on making sure there were gun safety initiatives in your neighborhoods. Clips provided to homes, and I want to continue this work by building out violence intervention programs at schools and in neighborhoods as well. Gun safety is a huge issue in Texas. We're all aware of this, and I think it was a really smart use of policy and a small budget to actually move the needle on something that actually is national, but affects each of our schools and neighborhoods every day. So that's something I'm going to continue as well.
Did you want to go down the line?
Yeah, we're going to.
So,
Yes.
So one of the things that Councilmember Abby Kaufman had said to me early on when I was considering running for this position is, you have to be available 24/7. District C the communities in District C, they need to, not that y'all are all very needy, but there are a lot of you, right? It's a large district, and with that comes the responsibility of being able to be responsive, which is why, currently, and I work about 50 to 60 hours a week. This is a full-time job for me. I'm not going to be doing anything additional on the side. This is something that I know is going to require my full attention. It isn't just about going to city council meetings. It's about making sure that I'm engaged with the community, listening to all of you, know what it is that you need, so that way you're not learning about agenda items when you're watching city council meetings. You've already been part of the process. So that is something that I know that Councilmember Kaufman is very proud of, and it's something that I will continue to do for all of you.
I think Abby Kaufman did a great job ensuring that flood mitigation projects were secured. These are long-term projects, and there really has to be somebody advocating all along the way, so whenever the ball drops, there's somebody breathing down your neck effectively. And I would continue those projects and ensure that that's going through. What I would do differently is, life at Jackson Square is an apartment complex. There has been an abatement lawsuit that has been instituted by the city, and that's what Abby Kaufman put through. What I would do differently is, for one thing, not allowing an apartment complex to become what it has, where the residents living there are living in untenable living conditions, and it's absolutely unacceptable that that has happened on our watch. I would ensure that the residents that live there now have somewhere to go, and then we create the legal structure for accountability to never allow that to happen again. Because the residents that live there should be prioritized, and I would do so.
When I first reached out to Councilman McCain's office to reactivate our Superneighborhood, she never asked me, why are you doing this? She just said, how can I help? And that's the exact attitude that I will have as your next District C council member. I will be active, I will be engaged, and most of all, I will be present. What I will do differently is I will bring a culture of street safety to City Council. I have spoken to mothers, parents, students about how dangerous Yale Street is. It's difficult to get across. Cars last year killed more Houstonians than homicides. That's because our streets are built in a way that encourages speeding and it endangers pedestrians and cyclists and drivers alike. I am going to City Council to bring that proactive nature to fix our streets and redesign them in a way that makes them safe for everyone. I also want to be more intentional with our tourism. We have seen in Montrose time and time again, when a city council member takes their eyes off of tourists, they can do unruly things and they can stop listening to the community. I will be at all of our tourist meetings, I will be present, I will be engaged, and again, I look forward to listening and learning from everyone here. Thank you.
So I was recently a chief of staff at City Hall, and Abby was my neighbor in the City Hall annex. I disagree. I don't think that she had anything to do with what's going on with life at Jackson Square, and I'm going to talk specifics. So there is an apartment complex on North Braeswood that is run by an out-of-town conglomerate that is they're complete slumlords. And they have let this apartment complex slip into disrepair. During the last freeze, 50% of the units had no heating. So what I would do is I would continue her efforts, and she's done a fantastic job. There's a lawsuit by the city to condemn the property now, but the first thing I did when I decided to run for this office was go to the Meyerland Superneighborhood leaders and said, drive me around the property. There are busted out windows, there's people that are squatting in there, it is not a safe place to live, and Councilmember Kamen has done a fantastic job, and day one I can continue her fight without any slack going on, and we can get this place closed down. It is not fair for the residents that live there, nor is it fair for the people that live in the neighborhood that have to deal with this.
So this is a very timely question because just 2 days ago on the 19th, Councilmembers Salinas, Pollard, and Councilmember Kamen came together to propose an immigration ordinance where basically HPD would no longer be required to call ICE at traffic stops, which is near and dear to my heart because look, my dad's Indian and he now has his passport in his car because he says to me, Audrey, how am I supposed to prove I'm a citizen? You can't tell just by looking at me. And people are avoiding seeking medical care because of his presence. So I would take the baton from Councilmember Kamen to continue that forwards. Additionally, I really respect Councilmember Kamen for working with families and neighborhoods and Let's Play Houston to help us repair our playgrounds, get more green space, and get our kids moving. Because I know that's how I get my kids off of their iPads. That includes Lawrence and Milroy Park. And finally, I'd like to continue initiatives she's had at Gregory Lincoln Education Center, which is a Title I school in District C that is often neglected and has high poverty rates.
All right, and we're going to go this way this time. What is one specific city process that you would change to improve how projects actually get built in District C?
Okay. So one is I am an advocate for open procurement processes. So what I mean by this is the city of Houston has a lot of contracts in business to give to people, to give to small businesses. But right now it can be difficult. Some of these bids are behind paywalls, or you need logins that are not really transparent. And we need our small businesses to be able to compete with the Walmarts and the Targets of the world, to raise up our neighborhood businesses, which also brings more foot traffic to them, and help let's raise them up and fight against some of these conglomerates. So I would be on board with open procurement processes to have bids be visible to everybody. That may mean investing in some more staffers with our permitting office in order to get it done. But to me, that is a small cost in comparison to how much business we can bring to our small businesses and raise up our neighborhoods.
One city process, I don't know how I can answer one. The city is like a big ball of red tape and bureaucracy. So if we had to go to one, I would go to permitting. The amount of time that is wasted in the permitting process costs all of us in housing, right? So there have been some cities nearby in the region that have started to use AI to go through deed restrictions and historic preservation neighborhoods to figure out what people can and can't do. And the response that they get when they're building homes or renovating homes is much quicker. This brings down the cost of housing for all of us, which is a great thing. So permitting is where I would start, having been on, as a realtor, been on the real estate side, and then having been at the city, helping people get stuff go through permitting, it is just an absolute nightmare. So that's the one place that I wish we could fix immediately.
Yeah. I'll touch on two real quick. I want to piggyback off the permitting. I think our permitting process is slow, outdated, and inefficient. What I'd like to do is one, cut our parking requirements and implement single stair reform. This is something that's already been implemented statewide, but we've not really seen it done here in Houston. I think that would make it quicker and more efficient and easier for developers to get through the permitting process to build that mixed-use affordable housing that we so desperately need here in Houston. Another thing is, I'm going to talk about TERSs again. My Fourth Ward TERS has not published their board books in a long time. This is not transparent. It doesn't allow citizens within Fourth Ward to recognize where their TERS is spending their money, how they're spending their money, or frankly, why they're not spending money. Our TERS has a $30 million bond that hasn't been spent yet, and that's funding that could be going towards street repair, affordable housing, or anything else like that. So I think working with the TERS is to make it more transparent, and then updating the permitting process to make it quicker and easier to develop.
I would tie subsidies to long-term affordability and safety. The Life at Jackson Square receives 60% tax abatement. And I lived at Life at Jackson Square from 2019 to 2021, so I did not have to drive around the property. But I spoke to the residents who continue to live there in not just unsafe conditions, but absolutely untenable. And that is the fault of the city. We have to strengthen our procurement practices. We cannot just do business with whoever or allow anything to happen under our watch and say that we have no purview, because we do. So I would ensure that we are not just allowing anybody to usher themselves into the city, and that those that are having to live in affordable housing have a decent place in which to stay, and that they are prioritized, because it's not an abstraction. These are real people.
To build on what Sophia just said, my office was responsible for the first time since 1987 to update our procurement processes. It was a really big win on how we go to contracts and how we are transparent with the companies that we choose to work with. That is one. The second, can I have two? Can I say the other one is, this is around the budget. I think that it is really important that we figure out, so right now we're in the budget process, starting the budget process of the county and the city. We're looking to see how we can merge our different services to save some money and find some efficiency there. But the conclusion that we keep going back to is how we generate revenue, and a big part of that is grant writing. And we have both seen that it's so important that we beef up our work around getting some additional grant money, and I would work to improve that system.
3, 1, 1. That means a lot of work. I mean, the request on there takes 6 or 8 months on average to complete, or it gets marked as completed when somebody looked at it. I have heard this story told a million times out on the blocks here in the city. And on top of that, I would agree with permitting as well. And I think this is where AI would be a really smart solution. And I'm the person who knows how to implement this, because my current full-time job is in AI safety. So I make sure if you're using these chatbots, you can't ask it how to make meth, to deny the Holocaust, or to teach you how to kill yourself. I know how to implement these things in organizations, but I also know how to ensure that they're safe. And we need somebody on city council right now who's literate in this technology. If this is about to drive a lot of our services, you need a city council member that's asking smart questions about what's the safety testing, what training data was used for this, what guardrails are implemented, and how are you implementing it in the city. There is nobody in America who's running for city council right now who has professional AI experience except for me.
All right. We're going to have 2 more questions that are going to be more of a short answer type, not necessarily yes, no, maybe, but just shouldn't take you a full minute to answer these, just off the top of your head. And then I'm going to give everyone another minute to make their final pitch, to sum it up why you should vote for me and not somebody else. So, first short answer question, and we'll start on Patrick's end. It was submitted as, what was the last time you rode the bus, but I'm going to amend it. What's the last time you used Metro? Bus, light rail, airport shuttle, one of those little weird golf cart thingies that they have running around. When was the last time you did it, and what was it?
1 week ago at the rodeo, trying to get out of there on the light rail.
The light rail in my office is at Preston and Maine, so it goes right by there, and I use it quite often to get to other parts of the city. So last week.
No, the Metro's not a very inviting place to be, so it's been years.
I took a 40-mile run through the Houston Heights.
This week.
I took it back from block walking, actually, because my husband dropped me off, so about 2 weeks ago.
All right. And next question. This one is near and dear to me because I biked here, I ride I use that bike lane on 11th Street all the time. Do you commit to protecting the 11th Street as it is, like Councilmember Kamen did?
Yes, I support the I Love 11th movement. My kids are biking on the bike lanes as well, so yes.
Ripping up current infrastructure and putting something else in is not something that I'm a fan of for economic reasons. I'm a big fan of, I was on the board of BikeHouston, expanding sidewalks and expanding paths and working on the MKT trail is something that I want to focus on. But ripping up current infrastructure to put it in, no.
Yeah, that story I told y'all about Kubosh asking my bike down from Kingwood, I was there advocating for the 11th Street bike lane. That is amazing safety infrastructure. I will 100% commit to protecting it, to saving it. I really appreciate the town hall that Councilmember Kamen and Castillo did together to allow Houstonians to come out and express their interest in the bike lane. I look forward to doing that as well throughout all of District C.
Yes, I would absolutely support it because we can't put cyclists and cars on the same road together. That's a recipe for disaster and for tragedy, so absolutely I would support that.
Absolutely, yes, I would support that. I would also support creating more of those lanes and connecting them to other parts of the city. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Those projects were at risk. Current sitting council members wanting to rip them up as well, and I would have communicated with them to make sure that it didn't happen.
All right. So before we wrap up, I would like to thank all of you for coming. This has been, I think, a great event. I would like to thank a number of sponsors and organizations for putting this together, starting again with the Houston Heights Association for providing this lovely facility. I would like to thank A Tale of Two Bridges, Strong Towns Houston, Walk and Roll Houston, Air Alliance Houston, Bike Houston, Friends of Lawrence and Milroy Parks, Friends of the Boulevard, and the Harris County Department of Education, which brought the food. So, big round of applause. Thank you all for having me. My name is Charles Kuffner. I write the blog Off the Cuff. I have interviewed all of these candidates and Laura Gallier. If you go to offthekuff.com, you can find them if you want to hear more from them. So, to wrap this up, and then there'll be some further opportunity for you to interact. I'm going to let we'll hold off that question for a minute. Emmanuel has a word to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we are going to be distributing the answers to the lightning round. So if the candidates will come see me afterwards, just to make sure that I have all your answers written down correctly. I know that there were some, really just two instances of qualified yes. So just want to clarify that. And we'll distribute that as well, as we'll have the live stream available to share. Thank you.
So again, you each have 1 minute to make the pitch for yourself. We're starting down at that end, and I would encourage you to frame that in the sense of why you should vote for me and not one of these other lovely people.
Oh, you want to debate? Okay. All right. You should vote for me because I am somebody with vision, strategy, and operational experience. I am not cynical. I am not somebody who's going to tell you, council members are not going to approve that, or $10 million doesn't really go very far. I am somebody who's going to help you get to yes. If you come to somebody, I'm not going to make excuses for why it's not going to happen. And I'm going to work with the mayor too. If he wants A and I want B, then I'm going to find a way to get us to C. I am somebody who's optimistic, and it's because I was born and raised here. I am a hometown kid. I was an intern at City Hall 13 years ago. I built a mobile app for the Department of Neighborhoods that they still include on their innovation website. I worked for years in the business community. I'm an Army veteran. I work in AI safety now. There is nobody like me who has the breadth of experience that I do. I am going to change the energy in the horseshoe, and the city's going to change along with it.
Except for me, I have more experience. advocate, I have also been able to move that advocacy over to actual implementation of policy that impacts the lives of every single one of us in Houston and Harris County every single day. I've worked with complex systems, I've gone through some of the most contentious budget cycles that we've seen in this region and that we've seen here in Houston and Harris County. I've been on the front lines fighting, I am battle tested, and I will bring the same kind of commitment and passion to my role as City Council that I have brought to serve the people of Harris County. You should vote for me because experience is wonderful, but none of it matters if you're going to get sold out at the end of the day. You should vote for me because I have many conversations with very powerful people, and I do not get needled into their agenda because I can sniff out when we're about to be sold out. I have experience working at every round of the legislative experience, from the inside, from the outside. I understand policy. I have been trained by policy experts. I work with the Kinder Institute. I can ensure that not only do we have an understanding of how these processes happen, but I will not prioritize political networks over the communities who potentially place me into that seat. Vote for me because politics has to change. We cannot continue producing politics as usual, business as usual. We have to truly ask ourselves why. Why is that the pattern that we continue to have to deal with months down the line? Constant betrayals. I will not betray you.
District C works because of everyone here today. You're engaged, you care, you reach out to your council member, you send emails. City Council must rise to y'all's level of engagement. My priorities are clear. Safer streets for everyone, affordable housing, and a transparent city hall. As a grassroots community organizer volunteering with BikeHouston, co-founding No Hire, No Hire I-10, reactivating my Superneighborhood in Freedmanstown, as a renewable energy developer, I have proven time and time again I can build coalitions, I can collaborate, and I can get big wins for District C. I look forward to getting those big wins with you as your next District C council member. I have to say, these yes/no questions have been remarkable to see because 5 years ago, that would have never been possible. But because of our movement building, we have brought the conversation forward, and Safe Streets is now the bare minimum. I look forward to seeing how far we can take it. My name is Joe Panzarella. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Hey, and appreciate everybody coming out. Just a big thank you to Kuffner, who's been on the front line doing a lot of stuff, especially here in the Heights over the years. I remember going to his blog breakfast years ago, so thank you so much for what you do for your community. I think when you look at the lightning round here and listen to these policy questions, we all kind of basically agree on the same stuff, right? We have the same vision for the city, but I think what I'm asking for and why I would hope that you would vote for me is because of my experience. I've been down at City Hall, I know how to get things done. I love this job, I love this work. If your trash can doesn't get picked up, I know who to call in solid waste to get it done. This is a customer service job. This is about your needs and getting them done at City Hall, and I would love to go advocate down for you at City Hall. Again, my name is Nick Hellyar. Remember, Hellyar when you go vote. I'm the last one on the ballot. I appreciate it, and I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you so much for being here today.
So I'm a physician mama that has organized and gotten policy across the finish line. When we were having trouble crossing Montrose to get to school, I advocated for safe routes to school. That's brought in $9 million so far in crosswalks. When we were selling smoke in the playground of my kid's school, we organized and took it to the state and addressed the loopholes that exist for smoke shops and got one piece of legislation across the finish line. And when the state took over HISD, we got together as parents with the ACLU and launched a complaint with the Department of Justice. So I am so proud to have worked with so many different groups in these past 5 years and have built coalitions and have received 14 organizational endorsements that I'm so proud of, including the Tejano Democrats, HVAC, the Black Democrats, Asian groups, 2 different teachers unions, scientists, and healthcare organizations to come together in order to advocate for policies that work for all of us. And I'm ready to hit the ground running. I've met with the county precinct commissioners that overlap with us, the city of Bel Air, because flooding water doesn't care where the municipal lines are. We have joint projects and other city council members to work together. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, all the candidates.